And everybody.
There, I've turned it on. Ooh, there's something going on. Okay, is that better? Yeah, I think that's better. Okay, good morning, everybody. We are here for the first meeting of the new year for ECHO Advisory Committee, and thank you all for showing up and coming out. We're going to call the meeting to order, and we're going to do a roll call, and then I think we have to take a vote on Mr. Patterson, because Mr. Patterson is out ill, but is wanting to call in, correct? Is that, okay. Can we call the roll, please?
Pat Northey,
Here.
Jay Pendergast,
Here.
Jeffrey Alt,
Here.
Sarah Lee Morrissey. Here. Pat Patterson is online. David Romeo,
Here.
Reggie Santilli,
Here.
Stacy Simmons,
Here.
Jack Surratt.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you, everybody, for coming out today. That was really great. Walk me through this process. So we need to make a motion to allow is Mr. Patterson, is he, here he is. Hey, Pat, welcome. We're happy to see you there. So Mr. Patterson is ill and not able to join us, so I need a motion from somebody on the committee that will allow him to participate in the meeting via Zoom. Do you want to make that motion? Who wants to make that? You make, okay, Jack.
I move that we allow
Okay.
Pat to participate.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, the motion has been made in second, and I'm assuming there's no discussion on that, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and that gives Mr. Patterson the opportunity to make comment and also to vote, correct? Okay, for anything that we have to vote on. All right, okay. So then we will move into public participation. Do we have any public nope? No? Well, okay, all right. Did everybody get a chance to read the minutes for October 13th, 2022? Are there any corrections or additions to those? If there are none, they will be filed as written. Okay. And we'll move to new business. Ms. Hively.
Yes, so we have Teresa Brooks here representing the city of Port Orange. They are requesting a time extension and a budget request change for the rec center phase 2. The budget's coming to you because it's more than the 20% that the staff is allowed to approve. So Teresa's here if you have any questions.
Okay. Teresa, do you have anything that you want to say, or you're just here for questions? Okay. Are there any questions of Teresa on this item? Not seeing any, then I'll entertain a motion for the budget change. I can do both of them together, can't? Yeah, okay, for the Port Orange Rec Center Phase 2 requested changes. Somebody want to make a motion on that?
I'll make a motion to
Thank-
accept them.
Thank you, Mr. Pendergast. Is there a second?
Second the motion.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, we'll call a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None? Okay. Thank you, Teresa. Are you here for anything else? That was it, okay. All right, Marine Discovery Center, and that is, Chad's out here if we have any questions, and
Yes, he's asking for a request due to some delays due to the recent hurricanes. We have already approved, staff has a year extension, so this is why he's coming here today for the extension.
okay. Chad, do you have anything you want to tell us about?
Be real brief when we come to the
Sure, yeah. And I'm just curious how you fared during the storm, because you're right there on the water, and I know you did that estuary program. That was the shoreline program.
Yes, yeah. Well, thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Chad Truxell, Executive Director, Marine Discovery Center. We did fine. We were
Okay.
very fortunate during the storm. Our roof blew off during Matthew, but these particular two, no flooding, luckily, and no major damage. So with that being said, we're almost done. They started pavers yesterday. Landscaping will be next week, but because it was getting too close to push, we're asking for this year extension for you, but we should be done in about a month's time with the project. So it's looking great. If you haven't been to the property, I'd love for you to come out and check it out.
Well, I'm real proud of that project. I think you've done a great job.
Well, thank you.
So,
Appreciate it.
Let me ask a question. You're asking for an additional year, and I'm assuming you don't need it. And I was wondering why you do that versus asking for 6 months or something else. Are you just covering yourself?
Yeah, I believe the allotments are in year increments.
Oh, is that right? Are they? So you
That's
so you
my
can't, so
understanding.
you got to ask for a year. Understood.
Yes,
Thank you.
so staff does recommend them ask for a year, just to accommodate for any delays, construction, final
But
paperwork.
I know we don't
walkthroughs.
like going through it multiple
Right,
times.
yes.
I was just wondering in general.
Yes, that's normally what we recommend.
Thank you.
okay. Are there any questions for Chad? If not, is there a motion to,
I'll have to recuse myself on this one because they're one of my pro bono clients.
okay, okay,
I can make it a motion to approve.
okay, thank
Extension
you.
For 1 year.
I'll second.
Stacy, and who seconded it?
Second.
Alt, okay, thank you, Mr. Alt. We have a motion to grant the time extension request, and do I need to have Mr. Patterson, how do we handle his vote?
He can verbally say
He
it.
can verbally say it,
Yes,
okay.
so-
He's controlling his,
He is.
right.
We've
okay.
unmuted him, so he should be able to unmute himself when he wants to
Mr.
speak.
Patterson, do you have any questions before I call for a vote? Okay, well, we can't hear you, but he said no. That's what I thought. So you read lips, huh? All right, all those in favor of the time extension request signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion is made and granted, and we know you're going to do a good job on it, Chad. Okay, Southeast Volusia Historical Society, that's another time extension request?
Yes, he's here too, with any questions if you have any, for a
Okay,
time
and
extension.
it's for a year?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
And you want to just put your name into the record,
Yeah,
please?
my name's Mark Rakowski. I'm a volunteer with the Southeast Volusia Historic Society. I drove all the way over here, so I want to say something. That's it.
Mark, I understand. I know you guys do it.
Yeah, the only thing we really have to do is wait for our windows and doors that take like six months or so.
Yeah.
So we probably only need 6 months, but you might as well get the year just in case something happens.
Well, everybody is complaining about the distribution time for
Right,
stuff,
so
so we certainly
If I
understand
have
that.
any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
Stacy? Ms. Simmons?
Thank you so much for joining us today. Just curious, I'm sorry, I didn't recall the landscape plan. Could you talk a little bit about what types of plants are going in at the facility?
Yeah, at this point, it's a very simple landscape plan. Remember, we're all volunteers, and we just put in a little irrigation system. So it's made up of robelinis and some Indian hawthorns. It's like 4 robelini bunches, I think 23 Indian hawthorns.
Is that mic on?
It is, yeah,
Oh,
sorry.
okay. He's,
Is
there
that
you go.
better?
Okay.
Sorry, we've been to the facility, and it's just really the foundation around the building. Is that correct?
It's really on just the north side of the building. The building fills up the entire lot, so we don't really have any land, so to speak. But we did get a an easement from the people to the north, so we can put some landscaping up there.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Jack?
Yeah, was the door and the windows damaged by the storm?
No, they're just,
This is just the order in general.
yeah, they're, what had happened is we had a little extra money because we put in an elevator shaft and we did it pretty inexpensively, so we thought, let's add something to it. So we put in doors and windows that really needed to be, the building's almost 100 years old, so.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve the extension.
Okay, thank you.
I'll second it.
Thank you, and you're going to abstain?
Yes, I'm going to abstain.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, and that was one abstention. Okay, good luck. Okay, project updates.
Yes. So in the agenda packet you received, you have a spreadsheet that gives an update on the open projects. This is through, if you remember, it's through the end of September, the third quarter. So the reporting is, unfortunately, that's how it works out when we meet with you. So as you can see, each project is listed with the design and construction completion rates for this quarter, what it was last quarter, and also the financial reimbursements to date. The projects highlighted in green are the ones that have been completed, so those will come off next quarter. Just to highlight a few, the New Smyrna Beach Restoration and Stabilization, the Women's Club, they went out to bid and did not receive any bids. They went out again, they received a bid, so they're working on executing a contract. He will be here in April to give an update. He thinks they may have to request an extension, but he'll know more once the contract's executed and they have a better timeline. So the Pictona, as y'all know, there was a grand opening. We are waiting for their final closeout paperwork on that. So that's pretty much complete there. The Veterans Memorial Plaza, the hurricane delayed some of that. The construction has started on the seawall. You know, the seawall wasn't part of our project, but it is right up to it. So that was delayed because of that, and it's back in progress, the construction is. So that should be on track. I talked to Tim Bailey yesterday. He will be here. He can be here in April, too, to give an update on that. The YMCA, both sites for the YMCA, we actually just received a request yesterday to approve the permanent sign. So they are nearing completion, which is ahead of the timeline. So if you have any other questions on any of the other open projects, I don't want to have to go through each one of them, but I can answer anything you have.
Are there questions for staff on projects? I have just a general, I guess, a question or a comment, I don't know. When projects are completed, I mean, I know I'm not suggesting that we go back out as a group, but it would be nice for whoever's completed the project, when they let you know that if we want to go out and see the final work as an advisory board member, that opportunity is granted, just to see how it ends up.
Yes, so
Everybody does ribbon cuttings.
Correct. Some of them do. I know the YMCA is going to. He mentioned that yesterday, but we can definitely get the information out and put it on social media, just so everybody in the community knows that the projects are completed, and then inform the committee at the same time also.
Okay. And when you all do your annual review, how, for instance, Pictona was a project we not just built the places where you play Pictona, the courts, but there was also, I think, a stage built there. How do you measure whether that, and that was a big part of their project, how do you measure the usage between the different entities?
So in the annual report, they're required to put how they record the number of participants or the events they have, how many people attended the events. So that's a requirement in the annual report.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah, I'm that City of New Smyrna Beach Restoration Stabilization. So that was a 2019 project, so I'm not as familiar with it. It's a historic restoration?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And do you happen to know, just thinking about some of the problems we've had with our historic projects and historic restoration in general, they got no bids. They had to go back out and they got one bid. Do you know how that bid came in compared to what their budget was?
No, he didn't share that with me, but I can let him know when he comes to make sure he has that information available.
Yeah, I'm just curious. Thank you.
Great, yes.
Simmons?
One last question. Do you know if they're going to have any sort of recognition for the opening of the McDonald project? McDonald House?
I have not heard that, but I can reach out to them and let the committee know.
And I just want to say you do a really great job keeping us informed of those events when you know about it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, don't see any other. Mr. Patterson, do you have any questions? We can't hear him at all.
Talking.
There you go. There you go, buddy. Any questions?
No, I'm fine. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right. And that is just an update. We don't have an actionable item on that.
Correct.
Okay. So we will turn to the review of environmental and historic meeting, the guidebook language. And you want to give us background on that?
Yes, so we have provided you a summary of the comments from the environmental and the historic. I'm not going to go through the whole list of them, but we provided this to help guide you for any recommendations y'all might have for changes to the guidebook. Also attached is the guidebook. With last meeting and the historic meeting, there was a motion made to add historic artifacts, monuments to the guidebook to allow for exterior access. We included that as for you to review and discuss. We also included definitions for historic artifact and historic monument. Those are all for review and discussion by the committee. If there's any other questions or comments, if you want to open it up for discussion, Pat, that's all I have for that.
Are there other comments on that from anybody? Ms. Simmons?
I did have a question on the guidebook summary of changes. On page 14, you said includes language to exempt standalone playgrounds from providing construction documents. I didn't quite see where the change was made, but it brought me to that question of, do we know the life of the practice for a playground set? Did we ever get any feedback from any professionals on that?
So I think all the equipment is different. They are required to have a maintenance and replacement plan. Since I've been with Echo, the ones I've seen have not been the 20-year or 30-year requirement that they have, but they do usually have a maintenance or are required to have a maintenance and replacement plan.
And do we require on playgrounds, are we requiring them, I think, didn't we say we wanted them all to be handicapped accessible, that we wouldn't fund anything but handicapped accessible? I don't remember.
It's not in the guidebook. It is required to be ADA. So we are working on getting someone from Parks and Rec that's certified in that.
That's right.
Yes, yes. We hope to have him in April to come give a presentation to the committee.
Okay. Okay. Other questions? We have a request to speak to the board from Kelly McGee on this item. Kelly, come on down.
Hello, good morning, Madam Chair, members of the ECHO Board. Kelly McGee, Executive Director of the Riverside Conservancy. Thank you for having this meeting, and thank you for having the workshops that have led up to this meeting. One of our interns spoke for me last summer during this workshop, and thank you for giving us this information. And really, I have a couple of questions. I'm hoping that the discussion this afternoon, as you talk about your 2023 planning, will cover any potential expansion to the ECHO program, or specifically the guidebook. In here, I noticed there were mostly they're very strategic, right? And you have to be very conservative as you're making these recommendations to the county council. But I was just wondering if there was going to be any consideration for expanding or encouraging living shorelines. Most notably, an idea for a small lot conservation program, particularly after the hurricanes. There is a lot of things have been revealed to us, particularly on the riverfront, and I'm here to happily tell you that our oyster reef breaks worked really, really well. They stayed completely intact when other areas were destroyed, and we are on target for finishing our living shoreline. And resiliency is really important, and there could be some strategic updates to the guidebook if you guys are willing to consider those. We have a lot of thoughts on small lot conservation easements, particularly Forever has a small lot program.
Yeah, I was going to say, we have a small lot with
It's only out for 9 antiquated subdivisions. So it's very specific. And there's a very good reason for that, which is it's very easy to process those. It's the assessed value on the property appraiser's website. The process is very easy. this is more difficult because it's, you know, it's along our blueways. And so it could be tied in, but it is really, a lot of these places are on that urban interface. And so water access, I noticed in your survey, was really big. And so these could really ameliorate your water access availability. So thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for?
Yeah, I have a question. I'm glad you're here, Kelly. Talk to me about remediation and maintenance projects, which you make a point of that that we don't, you know, do that. And tell me why we should.
All right, so for example, I'll start with the small lot program example. I can go into further detail, but you know, coastal projects, they often require updating. The beauty of conservation easements is you can go in, they're really protect-all, they're kind of like a goalkeeper for what can and can't be done on the shoreline, but the benefit of those is that we can restore them. We can help bring them back. So for example, if we had lost a lot of mangroves in an area that were planted, we could go back in. If there was, say, for example, a $10,000 set aside per coastal conservation easement. And those are things that we can bring to you all, right? Our conservation easements. But a program like that allowed funding to maintain it, or, you know, $50,000 per year available wouldn't even necessarily need to be distributed to the organization, but could be set aside for, you know, if and when these things happen, or we have a great opportunity, like we have land acquisition programs, we have the water management district, those could really help. And also for generally programmatic, that's really a dicey subject, but you know, the nonprofits really, you know, struggle to make the match for the program. So again, allowing the full property value of the land to be used as cash match for the program, that for conservation easements would be really, really helpful. And when you get to own a lot of property, there's value, and that kicks you into a much higher threshold for reporting. So even if there was a fund for, you know, audits and things of that nature, those could be helpful, and that'd be the type of administrative things.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me make a general comment about it. I was disappointed by this, by the lack of response for this. I mean, we've got 9 responses. Less than half of those are nonprofits. So we really didn't get a lot of participation on this, you know, on the subject, and we're trying to make an effort there. And so I went through it with some detail, but I kept thinking, well, is this really representative of the environmental projects that we could have? And a lot of it was understandable. It was kind of like, well, we've seen a million times these issues and why they're not participating. But to me, it called for one thing that we've seen before and we've talked about, but we've never done anything, and that is the kind of a connection with the forever land, because that to me, and we had that proposition before where they talked about doing all kinds of different activities or building things on the properties in order to facilitate more participation by the public, and I think that's a good thing. And perhaps that's something that we should come back and look at and visit it, because we never really did much with it. That's true ecological connection. I guess it could be considered recreational or outdoor as well. But to me, that synergy with Forever, I think, is a way to perhaps get more ecological projects in order and in line. So
I don't disagree, and I think that we have a big opportunity in front of us with our dollars to do some things that are really important and along the environmental area especially, and along with Volusia Forever, because I know that Ms. Calvin DeMarsh was, no, not DeMarsh, is it Calvin DeMarsh? Isn't it? I can remember. Donna Butler. Jeez,
Butler,
God.
Donna. Yeah.
I've known Donna since she was like a graduate at Stetson. Anyway, that she had.
Right, she pitched it. We saw
Yes,
the
yes.
different
So
opportunities. Yeah.
I would ask that you all, follow up on that and see if there's been some thoughts about how we can integrate the programs a little bit. Sarah Lee.
Yeah, I've thought about this. I don't have good suggestions, unfortunately. What I have learned in the past 2 years is the application process is onerous. And I'm not saying it shouldn't be, but we need to recognize it is an onerous application process, and in some ways, I think some of the restrictions that are inherent in it, whether it's, the match or just the paperwork that is associated not just with the application, but project monitoring, which continues for a long period of time. And when you consider all that with looking at who has applied, I think it diminishes some of the potential interest in the program. I don't have good suggestions on that, but I think we have to recognize that. I wrestle with the issue of public access, in particular, as Ms. McGee mentioned, and with the historic restoration projects. And I think we undervalue the contribution that certain types of projects make to the larger fabric of our community. Forget the issue of access, that the value of certain projects is not recognized so much by ECHO in what it can do to a neighborhood, a community, our ecosystem. And so I wrestle with the issue of public access. And honestly, I don't think the change that's recognized today with historic, I'm not convinced it goes far enough. I don't think it opens it up enough. But again, I'm not here with suggestions today. I wrestle with these issues because I absolutely recognize the importance of transparency, public access, and accountability. So there's that balancing act. It troubles me how much money is in reserves. And it troubles me when I look at the number of applications we get. And I think
we did have
all
two
of this kind of
last year. There were.
I understand, but just in the 2 years since I've been on the board, our reserves have increased.
And part of that was a return from the property the boardwalk project that Jim Deneen was going to do, and that got rolled back in.
But again, and I've thought about that. Whoever asked for it, I had been thinking about asking for it today, so I appreciate whoever asked for the dollar value. It begs, what can we do?
What
to do more?
strategic plan to do more? I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, I think, it's something we've wrestled with all along. But, I think one way we can do that is through changing the criteria by each of the letters, as Jeffrey Olt has mentioned before. And I still think that's a reasonable idea. In other words, take a look at each of these and evaluate them instead of it being one size fits all, to actually look at the criteria by each one. that would allow us to focus on the ones where we have less participation, but we feel the need to have more participation. And so I was going to make a suggestion that evaluation and that consideration is put in place into our goals for this year, that we actually look at that. And perhaps that would accommodate this versus basically saying, I'm not sure how we approach it or deal with it. Let's focus on each one of these things individually and see if we can, in fact, accommodate them better through looking at the criteria and the guidelines.
Okay, well, we can come to that when we talk about work plan discussion.
Okay?
On questions of the guidebook language, are there any issues on the guidebook language that has been presented to us as in front of you now? Okay, do we need to take an action item on that? Or
I just want to make note, during the historic meeting we had, they mentioned, one of the presenters mentioned it, historic artifact being allowable.
Yeah.
When we reviewed the definition, staff thought that specifically a tugboat would fit more so as a monument, not an artifact. So that's why we've included both of them. So if the committee wants to keep both in or recommendation, that's
I think it's
why they're.
fine.
Okay.
I think it should be kept both in. And looking at the language, I thought it said historic monument versus monument in general. It doesn't particularly have to be historic, right? You can have a statue or something that's not historic, but the title was historic monument. And so maybe just monument would be better than that.
Okay. Do you want us to take an action item on that? Yes? Okay, I'll ask for a motion to move the recommended changes to the ECHO guidebook. Somebody want to make a motion?
I move to accept the recommended
Thank you,
changes.
Jeff. Mr. Ault has moved it. Who's second?
Second.
By Mr. Surratt. Okay, I was going to call you Dr. Surratt.
I don't know why.
Anyway, any questions or any more comments? If not, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Patterson, shake your head, yeah? Yeah, okay. Okay, thank you.
One point too on the historic, it's the same sort of story. We didn't get a lot of participation on the historic as well, and the problems, the deterrent to be a participant were the same. And to me, this was basically reinforcement of what we already knew. But I was, I guess we just like more participation and more activity in these areas because we think they're valuable. But we're really, I wish we'd gotten more participation and input. So I'll leave it at that.
I understand where you're coming from on that one. Okay, review of a needs assessment survey results, resident survey.
Yes, so, okay, good. I included the PowerPoint presentation for the resident survey, so you could review it before the meeting. We had 829 responses.
How many we had?
Yes, so that
How
was a
many?
good 829
Okay.
total, yes. So
Is that both of them or?
that's just the resident survey.
Resident survey,
Yes,
okay.
yes. Yes, community information did help push that out. We kept pushing it on social media. They put it on the banner on their website, so they really helped us getting the word out, because it seemed like every time we pushed it out, we had, some more responses. So we try to do it fairly often.
And all the responses were electronic, right?
Yes, yes. So for the respondents, a majority of them, as you can see, have lived in Volusia for more than 20 years. So I think that's reassuring. I mean, to know that they've been here and they're familiar with the county, so. The most respondents we received were on the east side, which coming in a close second was the west side. So I think we got a good mix of both sides of the county.
What was the not applicable?
They did not
Indicate where they were?
They didn't indicate
Okay.
where they were.
All right. I guess that would be others was,
Or not, yes,
okay,
or not.
all right. It looks like, though, that generally there, with the exception of Pearson, Seville area, that it was pretty well distributed.
Yes. So it looks like the quality of life in Volusia County is good. So the respondents all, I mean, that was 60% of them said it was good. So that's a good sign. Of the respondents, they were somewhat familiar with the ECHO program and projects.
Actually, Kendra, if you go back one more, and including that, really, if you consider the implication of those who voted excellent and good, you're almost at 3/4 of your respondents feel like you have a good or better quality of life, which is,
That's pretty good.
okay.
We'll take that one.
Maybe that's why they've been here for more than 20 years.
Yes.
Well,
But, and on to your next slide, again, I just want to make sure we all realize that while the majority may say somewhat familiar or good, if you look above and add it,
Yes, it's 75%, so.
in terms of the respondents, and we don't know who they are, right, other than their residents, they could be all the county employees. I know they're not,
Well-
but I'm just saying, they could be biased, but this is good.
It's something to crow about, really.
Yeah, I think it is, but when we get to the 75% are familiar with ECHO, all right, and we get into that. Yeah, but again, they're filling out an ECHO survey. And so, I think that is bias. I think that
Just
I mean, they're,
because they're doing the ECHO
yeah,
survey.
you're doing an ECHO survey. You're not just
Yeah.
doing a survey. And
Understood.
not only that, but the sample's small, even at 800.
Does the county do a survey? We used to do surveys every couple of years as a county on our resources and what we offered. I'm wondering if we're going to do that anytime soon, and if we are, is the question of, are you familiar with ECHO in there, or could be placed in there? Because I think that would address.
It would. It would. Market research is kind of a curious thing. I mean, this is a survey, but you can't draw that many conclusions from it, right? I mean, we have, 500,000 people living in the county, and we've got 800 people participating on electronic media alone on a survey that's designed for ECHO. So, I mean, it's got built-in bias all over the place. But still, it doesn't mean it's not insightful. I think it does provide some insight to us. But, I'm not sure how much crowing we can do.
I'm going to crow.
Okay, fair enough.
So,
All right. It is.
Pat, I'm not aware of any surveys recently, but I can definitely reach out if we
We
need
used to do
information.
them. I don't know whether we
Yes.
still do them.
Yeah, so.
Okay.
So the respondents were satisfied, and like Sarah Lee said, if you combine satisfied and very satisfied, it does bump it close to 75. So overall, it looks like the majority of them are satisfied with the ECHO-funded projects. So the most visited types of projects are water access, trail systems, and sports and recreation parks. When asked how often they visited these sites, once again, the water access and trails were leading that. So the overall quality of the projects that we have, they say it's very important for them. Let me grab my notes. And the needs of the household, it looks like they are being met. The majority of them say, yes, we are getting our needs met by these ECHO projects.
I would have been interested to know those who selected none at all. what the heck, were they looking for? I mean, I know we didn't ask that as a follow-up, but that's such an interesting number to me that it looks like it's about 6% of the survey results that said none at all. How?
That may align with the ones that say they're not familiar with echo
Well, you're right, that could be, yeah.
So when asked to rank the highest priority type projects, trails led that, with water access a close second, and then sports and recreations followed.
Environmental learning centers and science facilities is good too. That number's pretty good too.
Yes.
Okay. They're all, I mean, it's, not everybody goes to the Performing Arts Center, but everybody can go hop on a bike or take a walk on a trail, or they can, go fish on a shoreline, so. Or their kid plays ball. Okay.
So one of the things I thought about when I looked at this slide and one of the previous ones, performing arts centers ranks lowest, in this. Generally, to go to a performing arts center, you have a fee. And it's not necessarily a donation. It's not like $1 or $5, whatever you can do. You're paying a ticket for something. And it made me think about the why. Why is it skewed the way it is in a number of the slides when we're comparing the types of facilities and the ease, in terms of if I try to apply, I didn't know there were 829 responses. I was like, I wonder how many people filled this out. But when I was trying to apply it across the larger, and I was thinking about, how do we reach more people? The issue of fee, I think, has a place somehow. It has bothered me that you have to pay a fee to belong to the Y. Right? But you don't necessarily have to pay a fee to go to the neighborhood park. So, the issue of fees and their role within the issue of access, I thought about it a little bit and just think there's something there.
So it sounds like one of the things that you might want to talk about is if we're going to have an ECHO grant, should they be required to provide some level of free service or free admission or a percent or something like that? Okay. And that's something for y'all to think about when we move through. I mean, they could.
That's like to everyone or just Volusia County residents?
Just Volusia.
Okay, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
When asked the most important areas which would have them visit echo projects more, the awareness was one of the number one, along with condition and maintenance. So that is good information as staff to know what we can do to improve their visits.
And is Volusia, the podcast now, it used to be the TV program, but now it's a podcast and on YouTube. We have our own YouTube channel in the county, so what do we do to?
It's Volusia Today.
Right, so how can we access that better to get more word out about the awareness of ECHO?
Yes.
Is there a way to do that?
Yes, so we can go on there and talk about the projects. ECHO it's scheduled through community information. And once again, we do put our projects on social media now once a month. So we highlight the project each month.
Yeah, I think we've, and I've talked about this several times. I think we've got an awareness problem. Again, you've got folks saying that we're not aware, but we're filling out an ECHO survey. That indicates the folks that aren't filling out the ECHO survey have a big awareness problem. And to me, that's one of our kind of our touchstone to the whole project is to have people use these facilities, to actually get that access for folks to go there. And a lot of folks, and everyone here knows this, you've talked to people and they say, yeah, what is ECHO? And that sounds interesting. I'd like to, check that out. I'd like to go there, but they don't know. And so I think we have an obligation to make it more publicly understood that these things are available to everyone. And I think when they speak in terms of awareness, that's one thing that we're getting through loud and clear. Okay, that people are not aware of all these various projects, and the more they are, the more they use, and the more important and the more quality of life we end up with. So I think it's kind of a nice circle, but I think we have to work harder than that. And I think what we're doing now relative to the into the TV things and all that, we're not touching a lot of people. We're not informing a lot of people of what's out there and what's available.
Mr. Patterson, are you wanting to say something? I see you leaning forward to your microphone.
Yeah, considering that the way the votes have gone over the last 20 years and in the current vote, the votes have been very high, so I think people are aware of it, of what we've done, or they wouldn't have voted for these projects, to keep the ECHO continuing. So I kind of think that maybe people are aware of it, it's just they maybe just don't want to go sometimes.
Yeah, well, I think there's something to say for that. But to me, I'm not speaking awareness of the ECHO program. I think that people are kind of aware of the ECHO program. I'm talking really more of the specific places, where they would go and visit. Not so much are they aware of the ECHO thing in general, particularly against the vote. I mean, I think that's right. They know what ECHO is. They just don't know that there's a new trail opening and there's access to these different things.
I know community information really does a lot of hard work on getting that out. And I know I've seen the posts on social media. I've been following that. I'm not sure what the answer is, but I think that I think community services, if they could focus, I don't know, at least a 3-minute segment on something once a week would be really good, whether it be land acquisition or ECHO, Volusia Forever or ECHO. And the other thing I noticed, I was on the computer last night, and we have our own YouTube channel, but I'm not sure that people know that and know to go to that channel to get information. I know they go to social media, but I'm not sure how many, old people like me, my sons keep telling me, Mom, everything's on YouTube. All you got to do is go to YouTube. That message, I think we need to send that message as well, that we are engaged and active, and you can find out not just about ECHO or Forever, but about the county through the YouTube channel. And I'm not sure that message has gotten out yet, so.
The dashboard is so amazing. I'm wondering if there's a way to capture the visits to that site. And second follow-up, is there a way to promote that dashboard from the advisory committee?
So we have promoted it on social media. The site visit, you mean the visits to each project? So we can definitely reach out to community information. I believe they can see that in the background. They manage the websites, but I can definitely find that out. But we pushed it pretty hard when we first launched it, but we can definitely do another push and get the information back out there.
One of the things too, if I may add, Stacy, that we've been doing as we go to different communities is we've developed rack cards, which are, Kendra has developed them, but basically we take information from the annual report, list all of the projects in that community. It's basically, and we hand it out at Rotary clubs, or we give it to council members when they go to the city of Deltona, or they go to Edgewater and it says, this was Echo investment in the community, this is how many people have visited the project. So we take that information from the annual report, but the backside where it lists the project also promotes the dashboard. So we're trying to get people there.
And thank you for saying that.
Yeah,
I'd
I-
forgotten that you were doing that.
I
You brought
did-
those to our Rotary Club, and it was amazing, the number of people in my small Rotary Club that said, whoa. I didn't
Exactly.
know
That's exactly what I'm talking about right there. So thank you so much for mentioning it. I mean, what that does is that starts bringing it back around to where the awareness, granted, that's on an organizational level versus public. But I think that's a good solid effort to kind of connect Echo to these individual areas and all the projects that are involved in our participation there. I think that's terrific. Thank you.
So we're working on, Pat, to your question, we're working on doing one for each city, so we can get them out, and also one countywide. So we've done just a few. When we've had meetings, we could distribute them, but we're working on getting one done for
I know
each
they
city.
were a hit at my Rotary Club.
Yes.
They were a hit, so.
One of the things as well that we're working on is taking the annual report data and doing an infographic annual report. It's one of the things we're working on how many people have visited, how much was invested, how many volunteer hours were spent to operate, how much money was invested to operate these projects by our partners. So it's an infographic kind of snapshot, not a lengthy annual report that no one's going to read, but a one-pager that kind of mimics these rack cards that we're taking to communities. But the rack cards are something we should certainly post on social media as I sit here and think about it, and on our website as well.
And if you could bring a couple next time, that'd be great.
Sure.
Okay.
So moving on to the next slide. This one is very interesting, as the question was, what's your opinion of the ECHO projects? And 73% said they do improve the quality of life, which
And that
aligns
aligns with the
with the
vote.
voters' response in 2020, which was 72%. So it's very interesting that aligned like that. So that's good to see. And this just goes back to what we were all just discussing, awareness. It looks like social media is the way they would like to be contacted, along with internet and email. So that's good information for staff to see.
Yeah, and it's more than that. I think that's pretty important. Basically, it says, hey, it's all electronic. The email from the county, I'm still confused how that would happen. I mean, some sort of newsletter or something. It sounds like, yeah, I'd like to get that, but I don't know how would that mechanically work.
That would be challenging, as we have to have their emails to do that. So unless we ask them to submit some, if they want to contact us or us to reach out to them, for them to have some type of form to submit their information for us to contact them.
All right. Thank you.
Any other questions? Jeffrey?
Well, if we're talking about emails, I get an email newsletter from Orange City every month. I'm not sure if the county has one. I know years ago, I used to be on an ECHO email list. And then around 2013, 2014, it just went away. That email list went away. But there are ways to create an electronic newsletter that gets information out about board appointment. I mean, the county should have one. I mean, I don't get anything from the county on that, but I do get one from Orange City about their meetings, about what's happening.
I'm wondering if it would be helpful when we have our next meeting in here to ask Kevin Captain if he could come by and talk about how we can promote ECHO.
Certainly.
Kevin is excellent.
Yes.
He does a really phenomenal job, and I think that some of the questions that I'm hearing, he might be able to answer or make recommendations.
What does he do?
He's he's in charge of the
IT?
No, PIO. He's public information officer.
good.
He's in charge of that department.
Well, I
so.
think, yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, he's very, very good at his job. So, would that be okay with you?
If we may, wait until after everyone's reappointed. I
Oh,
think
there
our
you go.
goal
That's
was
a good
to
idea. Yes.
include him as part of orientation for the new committee.
Good idea.
Or current.
Yeah, that's not too far away, which reminds me, I was going to say it at the end, but since you raised it now, I'll remind everyone, if you have not already submitted your application, and if you're seeking reappointment, there has been a problem with the site, electronic site, but you have,
Yes, so I was going to bring it up too at the end. So yes, if you've had issues, I have paper copies. You can definitely submit paper copy. I have some printed. I can email them to you. They're PDF, so whatever you prefer. And then you can get those back into Carissa Green.
I would also, just from my perspective, encourage you to let your member, because we have new members, know that you're interested in reappointment, if you are interested in reappointment, so, okay.
Okay. So if the discussion for the resident is done, I can move on to the partner. Okay. So the partner survey the data was collected a little differently as it was more open-ended questions. There were some results that were we had 9 responses. As I think Jack said that earlier, it's not a big response. But I gathered some data from the responses we did receive. And some themes. So 89% of the responses, the respondents foresee an potential ECHO-eligible project in the next 5 years. So that's good news. The majority of them look to have an ECHO project that might fit within the next 5 years. And this was mentioned earlier, I think Sarah Lee brought it up. The overall challenge with ECHO, applying for ECHO, is the application, the time it takes, and the complexity of it. Was the overall challenge for everybody. And when asked if educational providers should be allowed to apply, 45% said yes and 55% said no. So with that, if y'all have any discussion on the partner survey.
Any comments?
Yeah.
Jeff?
Yeah, I would like to just go on record too, along with Jackson, very disappointed that, we have 17 municipalities. We should have had at least every municipality respond to this.
At least.
It was disappointing to me.
I mean, how do you say you support this program? You're going to come here for a grant, and then when we ask you for information, you don't even respond.
Yeah.
Just a comment. Do you think it might have been the time of year?
That's a good, we also had hurricanes and.
Yes, so it opened in November and closed December. I think it was open for a month, so November 9th or 10th, I'm not sure the exact date, and then it closed to December 14th.
Would it be possible to maybe run that again for another?
For the partner one?
Yeah.
Yes, I can
Resident, the partner one.
Yes, I can definitely open it back up and reach back out to our partners.
Comfortable with that? Okay.
Yeah, I think that, why not? Maybe we approach it a different way or something, but, the participation makes a big deal of this. And perhaps, the fact that we have 5 projects coming down the line is because we made these inquiries, right? That by having kind of an outreach to them, maybe that spurred them to think more about it. But to me, it seems like a puzzle why they don't really get more involved. It wasn't a real complicated survey, and I know they're busy people, but gee, we're trying to facilitate projects, and we're not.
I can tell you also, and I'll use my city as an example. I know that the staff is very engaged in ECHO grants, that Jerry has brought a number forward, and yet when I watch those meetings, I hear the commission talk about, well, we need to be applying for some of those ECHO dollars, and you say, geez, how do you not, where's that disconnect at the city level? I mean, it isn't just with us, it seems like there's a disconnect there too, and I don't know how to respond to that. I was asked by the former mayor during her term to come and talk about ECHO, and make them aware, but of course, a lot of the cities have all new people on staff, and I know turnover in boards is the same thing. So yeah, I think it's just probably something we just have to stay at. We just have to keep doing it.
Yes.
Okay, is that it? Okay.
I have one other comment. besides the municipalities, one of the other partners in this ECHO program is the county. And I'm going to go back to the August 9th, 2021 meeting. I have my notes here. It's the ARPA workshop that the county did, how to spend ARPA funds. And there's a number of projects listed here that were put aside for the use of ARPA funds because they fall under ECHO. One of them being PFC Emory Bennett Memorial Park. It needs $10 million worth of renovations. There's Chuck Lemon Park, Lake Ashby Park. There are all of these projects listed. Obviously, this is part of a needs survey that the county knows about. Land acquisition for the Ag Center, the Tommy Lawrence Arena. There are all of these projects that fit under ECHO, yet we don't actually have a needs list. We don't have a strategic plan. We've talked about over the next 20 years, ECHO is going to, bring in somewhere between 180, maybe $200 million. That doesn't go very far, not at all. So we need to somehow get our act together this next year and come up with a strategic plan and have a needs assessment, a real needs assessment. This is what needs to happen in Volusia County between now and 2040. That's what we did in 1999 and 2000 to get this program passed. We had a needs assessment done, people participated, we had projects listed. This is what our goal is.
We did, I can remember that.
We don't have that. And yet, I know we have a lot of needs. And I know with how I'm in, or know what, the hospital systems do in trying to deal with mental health and issues throughout the community. People need passive parks. They do. They need places that they could go to for free, enjoy green space, enjoy a playground with their kids. Somehow we need to address this issue in 2023.
Well, Jeff, if I could respond, what they need is money. I mean, when you look through this thing, they say, it's almost like when you talk to a lot of people, what are your two things you need more of? Time and money. And it's the match. And I mean, we have to have a match. We can't just totally 100% fund a project. And we've reduced the matches for not-for-profits, hoping that that would help them. And we're getting less not-for-profits. And we're still seeing more and more municipalities, which is good. But the point is yes, they have all these parks and things they'd like to do, but they have to do the heavy lifting and say, we're going to support this with a 50% match or whatever is required. And I just don't think we can fund projects 100%. And as far as time goes, everybody goes, well, it takes a lot of time to fill out this application. Well, yes, but if you went to a bank and you asked for a loan or a line of credit, you would have an application that was much more onerous than this stuff is. And how can we ask for less? Name, address, project description. I mean, we've reduced some of the audit requirements because some of those things do seem to be a bit tedious. But I mean, a lot of what we're asking for, I would like to see, what are we asking for that is so over and above the information we need to spend taxpayer dollars? Because the other thing is we have a fiduciary requirement here to protect our taxpayer dollars. So, I mean, it's
But I think that's different than from what you're talking about, aren't you, Mr. Alt? That we ought to have a strategic plan that says.
A little bit, yes. I think we do need a strategic plan. And I agree with everything you just said about we have a responsibility to review these grants. And I don't believe the grant is onerous at all. I think maybe for a small organization, they need to learn, but the best return on investment for a nonprofit is board development.
Yeah.
If they don't have a solid board, if they only have 3 board members, they're not a solid nonprofit. They need to work on board development.
And I know that staff is always available to help and, yeah.
Well,
Go ahead,
There's-
Jack.
I'm with you, and I think we're all in agreement with this stuff. And I don't know how much effort is made relative to outreach to these groups relative to the developing the grant, and I know there's participation, but does that participation happen early on? In other words, I've got a plan, but I need to fill out this grant, and I don't know how to. Do they then communicate with you to do that?
Yes. So nonprofits, we typically will start several months in advance. For example, the 2 that you have coming in the next cycle, the team has probably spent over 40 hours helping those nonprofits prepare their application and understand the process with their board. We also are proactive. If we see a nonprofit gets a grant in the paper or it's announced like a historic grant, we'll reach out to them and say, you could use that grant to leverage ECHO dollars.
Yeah.
And we've done that in different cases. So there is a little bit of both. We'll support them. There's several nonprofits right now we've met with and are just not in the place where they can do it. We can't fill out that application for them.
No.
We can help them through the process. We can hold their hand, but we can't do the.
Well, I really appreciate all of that, and you obviously, Stacy, had a clue I didn't understand, and that's terrific. I think that's really great. One other point, and it goes to really Jay's mention there of we can't fund projects, 100%. And of course, that's right, and we all believe in the match. However, when we're talking about the county, and the county has needs, which we think fits the parameters here, I think the direct expenditure is not crazy, and I'm one that I've been against direct expenditures and being extremely conscious of those all along for a whole bunch of reasons, and some of them are political, right, which we've seen before. But you've got a long list of these things, and if we had a broader plan ourselves and said, we like historic projects or whatever they may be, and they're actually being identified by the county as something that they think would be good, but they don't have the money. Well, it seems to me the obligation is on the county's part to say to us, hey, this is a valuable project and worth a direct expenditure. Because I think then we would look at it like we would a project with a match and make a judgment. Yeah, Trails is a great
Number
project.
one
Right.
on the list.
Well,
And we invested in it, a direct expenditure.
And I tell you, had we not looked at that in that form, they wouldn't have happened. It wouldn't have happened because you didn't have enough money to be for nonprofits or anybody to stick in there. So I think one of the answers, and I wrote that down here, particularly against the environmental and historic elements, which we're looking for participation, that there may very well be a place for more direct expenditures identified by the county. And that's not to say they wouldn't be scrutinized or that should we just say, I'm not opening the checkbook.
They need to come here.
But we have to but I think that is to me, a way to facilitate some of these, especially bigger projects that we really want to happen, versus just continually, wait, a reactive position of waiting for the stuff to come to us. So I think the point's a good one, and I'm not sure how the mechanics of it work, but I think direct expenditure we have to look at that if we're really going to plan this thing out, especially with any kind of medium to long-term position, right?
Yeah, I agree. Any other thoughts? Okay.
I just want to say, I agree with Jack about the direct expenditure thing. Whether we like it or not, the ballot resolution gives the county the authority for direct expenditure.
Right.
And I'm sorry, I think it's a waste of time for Tim Bailey and some of the county staff to have to write these grants. I think we could streamline them. I think if there's a clear ECHO project, and we have the type of money that we have, it could be a yes or no vote. They could come in and say, we want to use this money for this park, or whatever. It fits within our comprehensive use plan, it fits within, the ECHO guidelines. Give us a yes or no. We say yes. Get rid of all of the paperwork and all of the responsibility for staff to track all of this stuff. Let's make it efficient. And let's give taxpayers what they want.
Good point. Mr. Patterson, are you leaning forward to say something, sir?
No, I'm just listening.
Okay, all right. I just want to give you your opportunity.
Well, if I may, one of the things that I think you will be pleased with, and I'm very happy to hear this conversation because your staff has, there's efforts underway to bring you a 5-year plan at the February meeting for county expenditures. So we're working diligently on that as a 5-year plan. And it's still ongoing, but the goal is to bring it with the grant review panel to have ECHO review the 5-year plan for county expenditures.
Great stuff. That's good. Terrific. Thanks. That's good news. Okay. Okay, so we finished partner survey and we'll move to 2023 work plan discussion.
Yes,
Look pretty simple.
So staff's provided some suggested for plans or goals for next year for the committee to review and to discuss. The report you had seen at the previous meeting, I don't think there were any, I made a few changes that were requested, but it's up for discussion now for the committee to look at the plan and to make any suggestions.
Let me start with Ms. Simmons. I saw her first, then go Sarah Lee.
Thank you. The only comment I have, I think, would be really interesting on the 2022 annual report, if you scroll down to number 3, just for, we have a lot of new county councilmen and others coming in. I think, can we add just the dollar amount, just to make it a little more clear? So number 3, you've done a great job with explaining if we could just add the total dollars spent that year.
Isn't that the 6,000?
Is it there? I'm sorry, I'm looking at the old one. That's why. You already updated it. I apologize. I'll throw that away. Thank you.
Sarah Lee.
At your mind.
No, that made me feel better because I was like, it's right here.
I had glasses.
I have those moments too often. So going up to the 2023 and piggybacking on the conversation that was just had, you talked about, it was mentioned a strategic plan. You just mentioned that you are working on a 5-year. Can we not add something for 2023 work plan that
that says that?
That says we're going to develop
a goal.
A 5-year or, whatever is reasonable to do, but speaks
Put it in
to
the
the
plan.
desire
Put it right
to be
there.
more proactive?
Yeah. I think that's a great idea. Mr. Alton, I think you probably would agree with that, with that status. Okay. Mr. Surratt?
Yeah,
I know
of
you
course.
spoke on
Yeah,
it.
I think.
Okay.
So if you can put in the record how you want it to be stated on the work plan.
Well, I think it's just it's a goal, right? That the goal is to have something that you're already working on as a 5-year plan, a 5-year strategic plan as a goal for this year. That's
County strategic plan.
yeah. Sounds like a.
How would you write it?
I don't want to use the word county, I want to use an echo.
Okay.
Because theoretically, there could be a project in there that is within the county, but
Fair enough.
could be owned and/or operated by either a nonprofit or a city.
Sure.
I'd like to keep it broad, recognizing that ECHO is, for more than the county.
Yeah, and it wasn't just direct expenditures, is what you were talking about, the 5-year plan. Was it just direct expenditures, or was it broader?
direct expenditure.
Oh,
I think it-
I thought you were going.
Well, I think it should be broader than that.
I do
I
too.
think it should include the potential for matches if it's there. But the direct expenditure is one that we have control of, complete control, right? We can-
Well,
we can
how
look at
about this? Because this speaks to the other, maybe this is 2 additional goals. Reach out to the municipalities who did not participate in the survey.
And ask them to.
And, maybe you don't have to ask all the survey questions, but those questions about the.
Well, we're going to open that
5
up,
years.
and I think probably, could we vote, not just, I would say not just the cities, but anybody who has received a grant that.
It was the partner,
The
right?
partners.
That was the partner survey where we were like,
Yeah, we're
really,
going to
only
open
9
the partner
people?
survey back up, though. We've asked them to do that, so we can put that as, could we not put that as a goal to continue evaluation with partners of the ECHO survey? I don't know. How would you write it?
I think my recommendation to the committee is let's use an umbrella term and strategic plan, because
Okay.
if we use an umbrella term, we can address marketing. If we have a plan on, we have some results that say people aren't aware, how can we have a strategy for marketing? How can we have a strategy for getting input from the city? So I think let's use an umbrella term and take it to council as a recommendation, as part of your work plan, and get their input too, as what they would like.
Sure.
Does that work? I mean, we can, this will go to council, when does that go to council for the work plan? That they have to approve it? Or we present it? I know you present it.
So if we decide today, then it would be probably on next month.
So you could share some language via email with us that you've put in there, correct?
Or we could bring it to the eligibility
Oh,
meeting
we
for
have
a
an,
final
that's right, on the
review.
26th, yeah. Okay, does that work for everybody?
Good.
Then,
Okay.
when we bring the projects, we could also bring it all together as a package
Okay,
to council.
okay, great. Okay, does that satisfy the discussion on the work plan discussion?
No. I
Okay.
needed to ask a couple more, and particularly about the goals. One thing that we had mentioned, and it came up last year with PICTONA in particular, was exceptional grants. And I remember we talked about that we should take another look at exceptional grants, and I think that should be a goal for this year, is to look at exceptional grants and the specifics involved. And part of that was the relative to, remember, the question was, did it have appropriate numbers connected to full county? Remember, it said the whole county was involved and all that. And so we need to look at the exception.
Is that just in addition, though, to the application? Is there, I mean, I hear what you're saying, because that was a concern. I know Mr. Alt had that as a concern.
Right.
Can we just add that as some way to the application for exceptional grants there?
Well, it could be. I just think, yeah, it may be, but for
You'd like to
instance.
see it as a goal?
Yeah, because I think it's a
that
pretty
okay
big,
with
it's a pretty
everybody,
big
or you
subject.
just-
And not only that, we need to look at like economic impact, right? Because there was never an economic impact even discussed relative to that. That wasn't in part of the package. And yet we knew that that had a big economic impact for an outdoor, recreational thing. I just think that we ought to look at exceptional and make sure that we're all comfortable for what is the bigger money.
Is everybody comfortable with adding that? And staff, do you understand where we're coming
Yeah,
from?
we do. And so one of the things I'll just remind the committee is we did take steps last year to operationalize those 2 statements that identify an exceptional project. So number 1 is countywide importance. So ECHO staff brought to you, back up, 2 criteria: countywide importance, serving a significant number of people. We had brought back to you, how would we measure those 2 things? What are data points or evidence an applicant can use to prove that they are doing these things? So we have that for the applicants now. It's a chart and it says countywide significance, here are data points or evidence you can provide to meet this criteria. Serving a significant number of people, here are some data points and criteria you can use to provide evidence that it's a exceptional project. But we can certainly bring that back and go through.
Well, it sounds like you're pretty far along, and maybe, and perhaps we don't need it as a goal if you're that far along. Maybe it just needs to be, we look at it and you let us know, versus make it a full-blown goal, because that in itself covers off most of it. And I just wanted to make sure that we were, on the same page, and I had forgotten that completely, so thanks.
I did too.
Yeah, so I think, I'm no longer suggesting that as a goal.
Okay.
You guys are just
all right.
on top of it.
Okay, is that it?
No,
No.
that's not it.
Okay.
No. But I promise I won't have a big elaborate plan like I did last time and got shot down. Okay, I won't do
not
that.
get
I won't
shot
do that
down.
this time, and I won't be handing out anything. Back to to evaluating customized criteria, which we brought up before, and I still think that we need to at least contemplate customized criteria relative to the projects that we're trying to get done. And I'm not sure how we do go about that, but I think we should look at each one of the letters and say, okay, does one size fit all, or how would we customize it differently? Not unlike what we did with the nonprofits in a lesser match, but in this case, dealing with the ECHO proposition itself. And so I'm only asking for an evaluation. I'm not saying we make any changes. I don't have a suggestion for the changes, but I think for potential criteria differences could make a difference on facilitating environmental causes and particularly the historic element.
Everybody comfortable with adding that as a goal? Or not? I see heads nodding, so we'll
I agree.
give that some thought. Okay. And
I do think, though, that, we've got to get that needs strategic plan done first.
Yeah.
And then you go back and you look at those 4 categories and how to address those.
Well, you mean going back and finding out additional needs more than what we got the first time? Is that what you're saying, as far as needs?
Well, no, what we had just talked about in terms of coming up with the strategic plan of what we want to accomplish. We need that list of what the needs are in the county. Brad said he was going to bring that thing in February, and so, but no, I agree with you.
well, hopefully, if we go back out with the partner survey, we will hear from our partners what they're looking at. 5-year plan, 10-year plan, or longer.
Well, and the last suggestion I had was about a promotional media plan, which you really are looking to dovetail into the bigger marketing of it. And that, to me, goes to awareness of the projects.
And I think we should actually add that as a goal, because we've already talked about how, having Kevin come down and talk to us, and I think that would be an appropriate goal to add.
And this is,
okay with that?
I think it's, to me, I think it's real important. I don't know if it could be handled under the bigger picture or not, but as a goal, I think it's substantial, and it needs to go in some depth, whether it be social media, how do we reach these folks, and perhaps this fellow is the linchpin to it.
Okay. What else do you got, buddy?
That's it.
That's it? Anybody else? Okay. Does staff need any clarification from us? Are you good? Okay. So we are done with work plan discussion. Any additional advisory committee comments from anybody? We'll start down. Okay. Sarah Lee, I saw you said you wanted to say something.
I would like to make sure that the dates I have on my calendar are correct, because one of them doesn't look right to me. So could we please go over the next couple of
Yes, that was going to be part of my comments, but yes. So the next meeting we have is January 26th. That's our tour and eligibility meeting. It will start, I hope to have that agenda out to you by tomorrow afternoon. That way you have time to review the applications. We had 3 submitted. So we will visit the 3 sites. There's 2 on the east side, 1 on the west side. We will provide lunch for you here in the chambers. And then we'll continue on with the eligibility portion of it. And we have a few items on the agenda also. And yes, also, if you remember the Creative Arts Cafe, you made a motion last time to visit that during the tour, so that's going to be on there also.
Okay. And is that an 8 a.m. start or 9 a.m.?
9 a.m.
9 a.m., okay. And then what comes after that meeting?
So February 17th, that's the grant review panel meeting. That's where you will come score the applicants.
That was the one I questioned because it's on a Friday. That's why-
Yes. So we had to put it on a Friday due to a scheduling conflict
Okay.
with the chamber. So it is on Friday.
Okay. That was the one that was making me think I had it wrong.
Yes.
And that starts at 9 as well.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Okay.
And we're doing that one here, not on the east side in the beach.
Correct. It's
Yeah,
here.
okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Simmons? Okay, Reggie? Jen?
I have one comment in general, and that is, in looking at the work plan and looking at what happened in '22, I just want to make a point to thank you guys, the county itself and Jill as well, for all the things that were done. I mean, one thing you did by listing that, and I know part of it is so you show county council you're working hard, but I tell you what, it indicated to me how much was accomplished this year, and it's not the board so much or what we do, but it's what you do. And today we discovered things that are beyond the list. So I just wanted to thank you for that.
I'll just say thank you for allowing the staff to be funded. That was your recommendation out of the ECHO fund. So the operating funds to hire a full-time staff to manage the program has, I really think, helped us take it to the next level last year and will continue to help us take it to the next level.
Yeah, it's no longer a shared responsibility.
Thanks.
Okay. Mr. Alt, any final comments? Okay, and we don't have anybody from the public? This is your last chance if anybody wants to say anything from the public. Okay, not, we are adjourned. Thank you all. Thank you. Wait a minute. Let me go to Mr. Patterson. Do you have any final comments?
No, I was just listening and
Okay, all
I'm
right.
happy.
Yeah, feel better. Thank you. We are adjourned. Yes, COVID.
If anybody needs an application, I have them. And if you want to leave the binders